The parishes of Jamaica are like chapters in the story of the island, each one with its own soul, its own legacy, and its own place in shaping the nation we know today. From the bustling urban centers to the quiet rural landscapes, from the echoes of the past to the pulse of the present, this is the full journey. Every parish, every story, all in one place. This is Parish Profiles, Jamaica. Guys, and guess what? Portmore is included. The parish of Kingston is the capital of Jamaica, and it is located on the southeastern end of the island. Until 1692, the parish of Kingston, as we know it, did not exist. Kingston came into existence after a massive earthquake destroyed 2/3 of Port Royal and killed almost 3,000 inhabitants. Survivors of the earthquake fled to the Ligani Plains, only to perish from exposure and diseases. As a result, 2 weeks after Port Royal's destruction, the government purchased 200 acres of land, known as Colonel Barry's Aga Crawl, at a cost of £1,000. Up until the sale, the land was owned by Sir William Beeston, who was absent from the island at the time. Therefore, his attorney Nicholas Laws conducted the sale on Beeston's behalf. The acquisition of the 200 acres of land was for the sole purpose of the erection of a new town, Kingston. Hence, early maps list Kingston's name as Beeston. This name, of course, is purely due to the land being acquired from Sir William Beeston. In July 1692, a plan for the building of the new town of Kingston was drawn up by John Gough, a surveyor. Also drawn up and issued were the terms by which settlers could acquire land. However, Port Royal was still the choice of residence by many because of its former grandeur. Consequently, the development of Kingston was stalled. It seems that as soon as the horrors of the earthquake were forgotten and a sense of normalcy re-established, many sailed back to Port Royal. However, any memory of Port Royal's grandiose glory soon came to a halt once again. A few years later, a catastrophic fire in 1703 completely destroyed most of what the earthquake had spared, as well as buildings that had been restored after the devastating earthquake. Once again, the now catastrophic weary Port Royal residents migrated to Kingston, most never to return to Port Royal. Please like this video if you love history like I do. Soon after 1703, a law was passed declaring Kingston the chief seat, the port for trade and entry into the island. From this moment on, Kingston's prosperity was assured, and in 1713 it was declared law that Kingston should forever be taken and esteemed as a district and parish with the powers of any other parish. Further, it should have the right to send 3 representatives to the assembly. Supplementary development of Kingston followed in the latter years as the population of the area grew. In 1842, the city of Kingston received its first public water supply from the Hope River. Though unfiltered, it supplied approximately 1,600 homes. Over the next 3 years, following the supply of water, the railway to Spanish Town was opened on November 21st, 1845. In about the middle of the century, a coaling station, which is storage for coal for the steam engines, was established near the foot of East Street. This now meant that steamers can call at Kingston on their way to Central and South America. Passengers and crews could disembark on the shore and spend money that would greatly benefit the city. Kingston, capital of Jamaica. The idea of Kingston becoming the capital of Jamaica was first put forward by the governor of Jamaica, Admiral Charles Knowles. Historians have pointed out that somewhere around the mid-18th century, Admiral Knowles sought to have the capital city moved from Spanish Town to Kingston. The reason for this, as noted by historians, was due to the fact that Kingston had a greater port capacity than the island's other ports combined. Also, Kingston's location benefited from the trade in contraband with Spain's recalcitrant colonies in the Caribbean. Not many shared Knowles' forward-thinking views. After all, they saw Kingston as merely 50 years old, and with many who thought it could never succeed Spanish Town as a suitable capital city, especially as Spanish Town had been the capital for 230 years. Therefore, a vigorous opposition from members of Spanish Town and the western parishes ensued. Nonetheless, Admiral Knowles' proposal met with strong support from members of the Assembly for Kingston and other eastern parishes. Finally, steps were taken to make Kingston the capital of Jamaica. Governor Knowles then sent the paperwork off to the United Kingdom for it to be made into law. Admiral Knowles' successor, Henry Moore, announced in 1758 that the king had declined to pass the bill that would in effect make Kingston the capital city. For decades, the relentless lobbying by merchants putting forth their arguments for Kingston to succeed Spanish Town as capital, extolling Kingston for occupying the ideal position, a position that eclipsed that of Spanish Town. Then there was Kingston's link with the outside world through its shipping connections, not to mention the city in waiting, ever-growing population. The switch was finally signaled, and Kingston became the island's capital in 1872 after over a century. Growth and development. During the post-emancipation period, private and speculative builders added 2 suburban zones to settlement developed during the 18th century. Buildings prior to 1890 were laid out in geometrical designs reminiscent of Gough's original town plans. By 1848, new houses were constructed in the west, north, and east of the city. Settlements were developed at Raytown, Brownstown, Lindostown, Annatown, and Simmet Village, otherwise known as West Kingston today. Between 1848 and 1889, the suburbs of Fletcherstown, Kingston Gardens, Almontown, Franklintown, and Portmore Town were constructed. In 1920, buildings in several of these districts were composed of densely populated tenements. These continuously populated areas soon spread across the parish boundary into St. Andrew, reaching Up Park Camp, Jonestown in the north, west, and east respectively. The second zone of sparsely populated suburbs developed after 1890 and expanded rapidly between the First and Second World Wars, when the population of the capital doubled as inhabitants moved from other parts of Kingston into St. Andrew. By the 1940s, the population extended eastward to Long Mountain, northwest to Matilda's Corner, north to Crossroads, Halfway Tree, and the Sandy Gully area. From the late 18th century until around the 1890s, the Ligoni Plain existed as a quasi-suburb of Kingston. Its agricultural character had declined with the introduction of the sugar industry. Over time, cattle pens and farmer estates were turned into residences for businessmen. Then a few years into the 20th century, the city of Kingston experienced a tragedy no one saw coming. On January 14, 1907, at about 3:30 p.m. local time, what is recorded as one of the world's deadliest earthquakes by U.S. Geological Survey struck Kingston. The magnitude 6.2 earthquake devastated a large part of the downtown area. Virtually all buildings south of Parade were either damaged or destroyed. The subsequent fires that followed lasted for hours before any effort could be made to try and extinguish them. Casualties from 800 up to 1,000 were believed to be a result of the earthquake and a tsunami that ensued. As a result of the damage, building codes were reformed and restrictions introduced. Damage estimated at £30 million in material damages was reported. A grant of £150,000 and a loan of £800,000 were secured from the British government. That was shared among property owners with responsibility for their own redevelopment. Residents as far north as Halfway Tree in St. Andrew had to be reconstructed. However, the most comprehensive rebuilding that was undertaken was in the commercial area. St. Andrew. The parish of St. Andrew was originally called Ligani, and the name still lingers around the plain, as the capital city of Kingston is located there. Sadly, Ligani is one of the few surviving words from the very first settlers of the island, the Arawaks. Presumably it stems from the word iguana meaning lizard. The parish of St. Andrew was one of the original parishes that were created between 1661 and 1664. It is also one of the first parishes to be established by law in 1867. The name St. Andrew was derived from the patron saints of Great Britain. St. Andrew stretches from Crossroads to Rockfort in the east, reaching up into Blue Mountains, sharing its borders with St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, and St. Catherine. In 1923, Kingston and St. Andrew were amalgamated to create the corporate area of Kingston and St. Andrew, as it is commonly referred to by most Jamaicans today. Capital. Halfway Tree is the capital of St. Andrew, and is originally known as Halfway Tree Pen. It is said that it had been owned by the Hodgkin family for over 130 years. Robert Hodgkin was Attorney General of Jamaica in 1707, and was a direct descendant of this family. Historians have said that Halfway Tree was named after a huge cotton tree that once grew at the junction of four roads, close to the parish church. People traveling from the western parishes into Kingston or further east often stopped at this point, halfway, to rest or to refresh themselves at a nearby tavern. The cotton tree is believed to have been in existence before the conquest of the island by the British in 1655. The clock tower, which is also at the center of Halfway Tree, was erected as a memorial to King Edward VII of England. Notable places or buildings in Kingston and St. Andrew. National Heroes Park. This park used to be known as the Kingston Racecourse because of its dominant activity and remained so up until 1953, when horse racing was transferred to Knutsford Park. It was later renamed the George VI Memorial Park in 1953 in honor of the late King and father of Queen Elizabeth II, and for her first visit to the island. Finally, in 1973, the National Heroes Park was the name given to the historical site. This park has been home to monuments that have been erected in honor of the island's national heroes. The National Library of Jamaica. The National Library of Jamaica serves as an important historical collector of Jamaican history. It collects information on Jamaica as well as information written outside of Jamaica about Jamaica or about notable Jamaicans. Its collection dates back to the 1500s and includes many rare books, maps, documents, pictures, and manuscripts. St. Andrew Parish Church. A historic building located in the heart of Halfway Tree, the St. Andrew Parish Church was founded in 1664 and is one of the oldest churches in Jamaica. The Jewish Cemetery. This cemetery is an important landmark in the history of Jamaica. It is the oldest denominational cemetery on the island. Halfway Tree Courthouse. This building was occupied by imperial censors during the Second World War and was also the venue for the second junior center by the Institute of Jamaica. Located approximately 24 kilometers from Jamaica's capital city and situated on the southeastern coast of St. Catherine, is the largest urban community. This urban settlement is known as Portmore and is the second largest after the capital of Spanish Town. Portmore can be divided into two divisions, the plains to the north and the limestone hills of Elsha to the south. Today, Portmore makes up the municipality of Portmore, from Passage Fort Drive to the north to as far south as Port Henderson Road. Portmore is also one step closer to becoming Jamaica's 15th parish. Its capital will be Portmore, which was the same model used to determine the capital for Kingston, which is also Kingston. The dormitory community is expected to become the first to be granted parish status in Jamaica in 155 years, the last time being in 1867 when St. Thomas was named a parish, absorbing the bulk of the historic parish of St. David at the time. The history of Portmore is one that encompasses a rich and compelling past, a past that can be traced through different groups of people, localities, and time, all of which has made a significant impact on the area that is Portmore today. Early history and Spanish occupation. Portmore's history stretches as far back as 900 AD to the first inhabitants, the Taínos. Evidence of Taíno presence has been discovered at Port Henderson Hill, Elsha, and Nagozed. There are also evidence of Spanish occupation in Portmore, Port Henderson, and Elsha, where they had built haciendas. The Spanish claim to have discovered Jamaica in 1494 and thereafter declared Jamaica a Spanish colony, which resulted in the annihilation of the gentle Taíno people. Portmore was brought into focus when the Spanish capital was moved from Seville in St. Anne to Spanish Town in St. Catherine. Passage Fort. Passage Fort, or the Passage as it has been earlier called, because it was the place of embarkation from Spanish Town. For this reason, it became one of the island's most important forts. Much like Spanish Town's importance, Passage Fort was equally significant to the Spaniards. However, Passage Fort was not viewed as the finest port of its kind, primarily because of the shallow waters that prevented large ships from docking. Nevertheless, it was the main port for the town, since nearly all communications with the outside world was done through this port. Although Passage Fort had some form of defense system, they were subjected to frequent attacks from the European rivals, and that was due to the fact that Jamaica was poorly defended by the Spanish at that time. If you like this video and you're from Portmore, give this video a thumbs up. Attacks on Passage Fort. In January 1597, an English adventurer named Sir Anthony Shirley made the first real attack on Jamaica. From Passage Fort, he and approximately 250 men marched into Spanish Town, where they plundered the city, then set fire to it. Their invasion was short-lived, however, for they left the island shortly afterwards. A few years later, there was another attack by English General Christopher Newport. With about a dozen ships under his command, he headed for Passage Fort. There, the English attack was repelled when they were fired upon by the expectant Spanish. Portmore under the English. There was to be more attacks on Jamaica by the English, for unlike previous attacks, this one was to be their last. The English set out with determination. Their intention was capturing Jamaica from the Spanish, and they disembarked on May 10, 1655 at Passage Fort in a ruthless invasion. The English captured Jamaica from the Spanish, thus ending over 150 years of Spanish occupation on the island. Development. Having captured Jamaica from the Spanish, the English set out to distribute land and establish agricultural districts or settlements. The Portmore area, being a part of the Spanish town's environs, was one of the first places to be settled. By the 1700s, Portmore had a number of pens, namely Reed's Pen, Salt Pond Pen, and the Cumberland Pen. Pens were small estates whose main purpose was to supply goods to larger estates. It was determined that the Portmore area was far too dry for sugar production, so pen keeping was seen as a preferred option. Port Henderson. The earthquake that destroyed Port Royal in 1692 had also a devastating impact on the port, so the importance of Passage Fort to the English started to decline. It was also decided that the Portmore area was in need of a better port, for the harbour was often blocked with silt from the Ryakouba River. For this reason, in the mid-1700s, a new town was established approximately 3 miles from Passage Fort. This new town was first named New Brighton, though it eventually came to be known as Port Henderson. Port Henderson was named after Colonel John Henderson of the militia, who was responsible for its development. The new town of Port Henderson became an important town for the English. The depth of the water in this new port allowed for vessels to be anchored much closer to the wharf. Henderson built warehouses and shops, from which he was paid wharfage fees and port charges. Under his ownership, a mineral spring was discovered and he cut a channel through the hillside so that the waters of the spring could be distributed to the rest of the town, and for a short while this was considered a form of tourism for Port Henderson. It became a fashionable spa and health resort with a small bathhouse erected over the springs. This venture did not continue for a very long, however, as the underground water source soon shifted. Nevertheless, it is noted that in the mid-18th century, Port Henderson had become the principal port for Spanish Town. By the 1770s, it has also become a vital part of Jamaica's defense system, as Portmore played a major role in the fortification of St. Catherine, or Jamaica on a whole. Fort Augusta and Fort Clarence were also pivotal in their role on the island. Nevertheless, the importance of Port Henderson fluctuated when, with the dawning of the 1840s, the introduction of the railway saw a slight decline, but picked up again in the 1890s, with the work of Ralph Hodgkins and the advent of Port Henderson as a banana pier. Agriculture, banana. During the 1880s, banana export had become a booming business from the port. In the southeastern section of St. Catherine, major irrigation works had begun in an effort to make the plains more productive. During that period, steamships were regular visitors to the ports and the piers of the island, buying tropical fruit to take back to America to satisfy the demand. The profitability of the banana venture was so great that the grazing properties in close proximity to Port Henderson were put to use by those with capital to develop banana estates with the required irrigation that goes with such a venture. The United Fruit Company, the major banana company at the time, also invested in banana production in Jamaica by buying lands all around the area, including Portmore Pen, which was north of Port Henderson. Over time, through the development of the banana industry at the turn of the 20th century, Port Henderson was firmly established as a banana pier for southeast St. Catherine. The birth and development of modern Portmore. The majority of modern Portmore was built on that coastal property called Portmore Pen. The first English owners of the property were the Dawkins family. Initially, the property was called Salt Pond Pen and was sometimes referred to as Dawkins Pen. In the second half of the 19th century, however, it was renamed Portmore Pen and then Portmore, in honor of the ancestors of the Dawkins, who had married into the family of the Earl of Portmore, who was from Scotland. Portmore, or Portmore Pen, at the time did not include areas such as Brayton, Elsha, Port Henderson, and the Newlands. In the early 20th century, Colonel Dawkins sold many of his Jamaican properties, Portmore included. The United Fruit Company acquired the lands from Dawkins, but did not fully utilize all of the lands. Only the northern reaches were utilized. The majority of the land remained a grassy, muddy wasteland. In the middle of the 20th century, the United Fruit Company sold the Portmore property to the Caymanas Estates. Unfortunately, much like previous owners, the lands were not fully exploited, and as a result, much of Portmore remained undeveloped. Consequently, a company called the Portmore Land Development Company was formed, and they purchased the property from the Caymanas Estate with the intention of establishing a housing development on the property. In the 1950s and the 60s, Kingston ran out of suitable lands for development. Therefore, housing development in Portmore was a response to the great outcry for affordable housing of sections of the population. Prior to any development of the land, a dike had to be constructed to contain the Rio Cobre, and a causeway built to connect Kingston to Portmore. The lowlands and the harbour were also dredged and filled with quarried marl stones from the Port Henderson Hills. Once this was successfully accomplished, housing development began in earnest. Housing development. In 1969, under the direction of the West Indies Home Contractors, or WICON, the first housing scheme in Portmore was erected and was called Independence City. The scheme consisted of approximately 1,000 to 1,200 2- and 3-bedroom dwellings. The following housing community to be constructed was Edgewater Villas. Over time, more community development followed. Bridgeport Phase 1 and 2 came next in 1972 and 1974 respectively. This was followed by Passage Fort in the same year and Waterford a year later in 1975. Bridgeport Phase 3 followed in 1976 with the construction of Portsmouth and Southborough in 1978 and 1979. Population. With the development of Portmore came a growth in its population. When developers started working in the late 1960s, it is said that fewer than 2,000 people were living in the Portmore area. By 1970, there was a sharp increase of about 5,000 people. In the 1980s, more housing schemes were constructed. Cumberland, Westchester, and West Bay Phase 1 and 2 were erected. During this period, it is estimated that approximately 77,000 people were living in Portmore. The beginning of the 1990s saw the construction of West Bay Phase 3 and Bridgeview, with an increase of units at Cumberland. This contributed to additional growth in the already booming population. With the construction of Greater Portmore in the mid-1990s came another escalation in population, and the number of residents in Portmore almost doubled to roughly 160,000. Along with the various development schemes came schools, a town centre, churches, and other essential facilities. As a result of the rapid development, a bill was passed granting Portmore a municipal status in 2003. They were given the right to manage their own affairs, including election of their own mayor. By far, the most considerable aspect of the development in Portmore is its status as the largest residential area in the Caribbean, with over 200,000 residents. Notable places are buildings in Portmore. Fort Augusta. Situated between Port Henderson and the Passage Fort on the seaward side is Fort Augusta. Construction of this fort began in 1740 and was completed in the 1750s. Fort Augusta was named in honor of the mother of King George III. The fort was part of the island's defense system, and by 1770, up to 80 guns were positioned there. Fort Augusta has been converted into a correctional facility for women, and is the only one of its kind on the island. I think it closed, I'm not sure. That is for another video. Two Sisters Cave. Located in the Elshire Hills, each cave has a large sinkhole, which contains fresh water. It is possible that these reservoirs served as sources of fresh water for the Taino people. The cave contains a petroglyph or prehistoric rock drawing of a face, which is believed to be about 700 years old. Rodney's Lookout. Built by Admiral George Rodney on a summit of the Port Henderson Hills between 1780 to 1782 as a signaling station. Guys, if you sweeping down from the serene heights of the Blue Mountains to the pristine coastline of southeast Jamaica, the parish of St. Thomas is one of the most storied in the island. It is bordered by St. Andrew on the west, Portland on the north, and the Caribbean Sea to the south. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. Long before modern-day Jamaicans inhabited the parish, other people moved among the forests and grasslands of St. Thomas. The history of human settlement in the parish stretches back as far as 650 AD, when the Taino people reached our shores. Archaeologists have unearthed Taino settlements at Spanish Wood, Retreat, Belvedere, Cambridge Hill, and Yalas. But little is left of these early settlers, apart from their graves, some pottery, and the refuse they left at their dump sites, called middens. Evidence of the country's economic role can be seen in the settlement patterns of the parish. The first Spanish settlers in St. Thomas established cattle ranches at Morant, later to be called Morant Bay, and Ayala, now Yalas. In later years, bands of Maroons settled in the St. Thomas Mountains and eventually joined with those in Portland, thus forming the Windward Maroons. They would play a critical role to the events that were to unfold. The history of St. Thomas is now popularly associated with the events of 1865, events which led to Jamaica's assembly being dissolved and the island's status being changed to that of a crown colony. These events of over a century ago have also made Paul Bogle and George William Gordon national heroes to modern-day Jamaicans and made Stony Gut and Morant Bay names with powerful emotions. St. Thomas is bordered by St. Andrew on the west, Portland on the north, and the Caribbean Sea to the south. The landmass of St. Thomas ranges from the peaks of the Blue Mountains and the John Crow Mountains down to sea level. Subsidiary ridges of the Blue Mountain Range, running from east to west across the island, come to their eastern end in St. Thomas. These include the Port Royal Mountain Range, which rises in some parts to 1,219.2 meters, 4,000 feet, and stretches from above Newcastle in St. Andrew to a point near the sea in the Albion area of St. Thomas. Bath Botanical Gardens. Established in 1779 by the government of Jamaica, these gardens are the second oldest in the Western Hemisphere. Many of the plants first brought to Jamaica were introduced here, including the croton, the jacaranda, cinnamon, mango, jackfruit, and the breadfruit. Bath Fountain. Discovered by a runaway slave in 1695, the Bath Fountain or mineral spring was acquired and developed by the government of Jamaica in 1669. The water is drawn from both hot and cold springs, and its high mineral content, sulfur and lime, is said to be effective in the treatment of skin diseases, gout, and rheumatism. The use of the spring reached its height about 1750 and led to the establishment of a thriving little town at Bath. Judgment Cliff. The earthquake of 1692, which destroyed most of Port Royal, literally tore off a part of a mountainside in St. Thomas. The result is Judgment Cliff, a geological phenomenon easily visible from the road about midway between Easington and the Richmond Vale. It appears that half of a mountain simply crumpled during that massive quake. The Morant Bay Courthouse. Scene of the 1865 riot, this courthouse was burnt during the violence that occurred. It was rebuilt sometime afterwards. Leader of the rioters, national hero Paul Bogle, was buried behind the courthouse in a shallow grave. Stokes Hall Great House. Stokes Hall and the nearby Stokes Field marked the area where Major Luke Stokes, the then governor of Nevis, brought his family and over 1,600 colonists to Jamaica during the days of colonization. Fevers and related illnesses killed many of the colonists, including Major Stokes and his wife. But his children survived and eventually established these two outstanding houses. The ruins of the Great House are possibly the oldest existing structural foundations on the island. The Morant Bay Fort. Located behind the Morant Bay Courthouse, this fort dates back to 1773, but its three remaining cannons were installed early in the 18th century. The Morant Bay Lighthouse. This 100 feet high structure was built in 1841 by crews, part of the contingent of 11,400 free Africans brought to Jamaica after emancipation. Many of these Africans landed and settled in Morant Bay, as well as the interior areas of St. Thomas, particularly along the Plantain Garden River Valley. Stony Gut, site of the Bogle Chapel. At this site, a plaque with these words can be found. Here was located the chapel and house of national hero and right excellent Paul Bogle. It was from this spot on October 11, 1865, that Deacon Bogle led his people to Morant Bay to protest against the oppression of the humble Jamaicans by the plantocracy. It was brutally put down by Governor Hyrie. Deacon Bogle was taken near Stony Gut on October 23, 1865, tried by court-martial and hanged at Morant Bay on October 24, 1865.
Marched into an important and bloody chapter of Caribbean and British imperial history. That day and its aftermath stirred the passions of Victorian Britain and helped to define attitudes to race and to empire.
Portland is a parish located on Jamaica's northeast coast. It is situated to the north of St. Thomas and the east of St. Mary. The parish is known for its natural beauty, stunning beaches, lush vegetation, multiple caves and rivers, as well as the peak of the Blue Mountain Range. It lies in the direct path of the prevailing northeast trade winds that bring rain, and its hilly terrain trap the winds and ensure almost daily rainfall. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you never miss an update. A combination of the parish of St. George and the part of St. Thomas, this parish was named after the Duke of Portland, who was governor of Jamaica between 1722 and 1726. The Maroons, who lurked in the Blue and Jonquil Mountains, were adamant that Europeans would not settle in Portland. They got all their firepower by raiding plantations or by purchasing them from mercenaries. The 1730s saw a series of battles between the Maroons and the British. When it seemed that the Maroons were about to destroy Portland, the British captured Nannytown. The Maroon settlement, whose leader was the woman who was later to become Jamaica's first national heroine, Nanny. Portland is known for its vast contribution to the country's agricultural output, especially in the cultivation of banana, coconut, and breadfruit, for both the domestic and foreign markets. Most of its coastal strip has been designated as land suitable for cultivation with almost no limitation. No other agricultural land has been attributed with this description in Jamaica. Portland is bordered on the north and northeast by the Caribbean Sea, west by St. Mary, and south by St. Thomas. The parish covers 89.86 kilometers of the island's total coastal area, while its maximum width is approximately 20.84 miles. Portland's coastline stretches from Hector's River in the east to Windsor Castle in the west. The two main towns of the parish are Port Antonio, the capital, and Buff Bay. Port Antonio is regarded as the cradle of the tourism industry, having been the first town in the country to accommodate tourist visits as a result of the emergence of the banana industry. The parish has the distinction of having two harbors, and one of its main features is Navy Island, situated on its western harbor. Port Antonio in recent years has been assuming increasing importance as an economic and cultural center, and it is the hideaway for some of Jamaica's most exclusive tourist accommodations. Somerset Falls. Tumbling down the hillsides, Daniel River makes a beautiful painting of the landscape. Miniature waterfalls along the narrow gorge add to this awesome scenery, with the mist and the steady rush of water blotting out the outside world. The Nonsuch Caves. As the popular story goes, these caves were rediscovered in 1957 by a goat that seemed to have lost its way. Mother Nature seems to have used her free hand to create similar structures to what man has created to adorn the chambers. The Blue Lagoon. A 55-meter deep, extinct volcano surrounded by lush tropical foliage, fed by underground streams, feed the Blue Lagoon. In its heyday, this area was famous for water skiing. The Rio Grande. In recent times, rafting on this river has become a great tourist attraction. Rafting starts at Berrydale and continues for about 4 km, ending at Rafters Rest. The Reach Falls. Situated in Monchaneel, these breathtaking falls are a scenic highlight for this area. Crystal Springs. This is a recreational center which boasts 156 acres. Among the facilities offered are fish ponds and a river, picnic grounds, and a garden. Navy Island, 7 minutes by boat from Port Antonio. Attractions include a guided tour by reservation. There are also cottages and villas, a marina bar, restaurant and white sand beach with water sporting activities. Titchfield School. The main building of Titchfield was at one time a military barracks, built in 1743 to protect planters against invasions and attacks from the Maroons. Fort George, which overlooks the harbour, was built in 1729. Titchfield was founded in 1786 as a free school for the education of the youth of the parish. Fair Prospect High School. This is the location of the Fair Prospect Windmill Tower. The tower was used to lift water from the underground source, which is now a dry cave. The tower was converted to a residence. However, the integrity of the exterior of the windmill is still maintained. Seaman's Valley. This property has on it the ruins of Seaman's Valley Great House and the first European cemetery in this area of Portland. Here, George Fuller, famous English superintendent of the Moortown Maroons, was buried. The Seaman's Valley Road leads to Moortown, and the oldest settlement of the entire valley, and also to the headquarters of the Eastern Maroons. Cenotaph, Port Antonio. The Cenotaph, Port Antonio, is situated opposite the market. It was erected in 1929 by voluntary subscription and is dedicated to those who died in the First World War. Old Nannytown. Situated on Nannytown Hill, high above sea level, this was the most famous settlement of the Maroons. It had over 140 houses, most of which were burnt by the militia and rebuilt by the Maroons during the 4 years of fighting which preceded the treaty. It has been named after Nanny, the great Maroon leader who brought the Maroon many of their victories during the First Maroon War. Built around 1723, it was not discovered by the English until 1728, when Sambo, an African, led them to it. Today, there is still little to see, but the ruins of the barracks built by the occupying troops between 1734 and 1740. A plaque commemorates the occupancy of Nannytown by Colonel Brooks and the British troops under him. Moortown, New Nannytown. In 1739, Cudjoe, Nanny's brother, signed a peace treaty with the British. The Maroons thereby became the first group of blacks to succeed in gaining their freedom from their colonial masters. Nanny, however, refused to sign a treaty with the British, but agreed to a truce. Nanny's Maroons, after the truce, divided themselves into two groups, one of which went with her brother Quaco to Crawford Town, and the other group followed Nanny to a new settlement, New Nannytown, now called Moortown. The success of settlements like Moortown depended on a large extent to the quality of the superintendent, and Moortown was fortunate in obtaining good ones. The most famous of these was Lieutenant George Fuller, an Englishman who became the acting barracks master, and later superintendent at Moortown between 1809 and 1823. He also started the Fuller family through marriage with a Maroon girl. Moortown is today governed by a colonel, a Maroon given the honorary title earned by his ancestors. St. Andrew was one of the first parishes in Jamaica to be established by law in 1867. Before being established, it was known as Ligani, the Taino word for iguana. St. Andrew lies to the north, west, and east of Kingston. As Kingston grew in popularity, wealthy residents of Kingston began buying old pens in St. Andrew. Pen originally referred to a farm where livestock was kept, and until recently, many areas in St. Andrew were still called pens. Pen soon came to be considered a derogatory term for places where people lived, and many of these pens were renamed gardens. St. Andrew stretches from Crossroads to Rockfort in the east and reaches up to the Blue Mountains, sharing borders with St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, and St. Catherine. Overlooking Kingston and St. Andrew, the Blue Mountains reach as high as 1,930 meters at Sir John's Peak, within the municipal boundary. The fan-shaped Ligani Plains raise from sea level to the foothills of the Blue Mountains. St. Andrew, along with Kingston, has a total coastline area of 64.37 km, with a total area of shoreline that's usable at 48.8 km. Halfway Tree, the capital of St. Andrew, is commonly referred to as the midway mark between what is called uptown and downtown. When the Spaniards first arrived, a huge cotton tree stood near the parish church, at the junction of the important roads which led from Spanish Town and Kingston to the easterly parishes of Portland, formerly St. George, and St. Mary. People traveling from the western parish into Kingston or further east often stopped at this halfway point to rest, and there was a tavern in the shade of the old cotton tree which provided refreshment for the travelers, hence the name of this famous intersection. New Kingston is a dazzling metropolis of commerce, with its multi-story office complexes and exquisite stores and restaurants. All the buildings here, except for the Ligani Club, has been erected since independence and boasts the latest in architectural design and achievement. New Kingston started out as the Knutsford Park racetrack. When the racetrack closed down, the area remained as a large, dusty vacant lot on which learner drivers practiced reversing and parking skills. For a bonus fact, December 21st, 1911 was the first flight that landed in Jamaica, and it landed at the Knutsford Park racetrack. That was 8 years after the Wright brothers, recorded their first flight. And 19 years later, the first commercial flight, the Pan American Coastal Consolidated Commodore, landed at the Kingston Harbor. Constant Spring takes its name from a sugar plantation and the almost constant flowing spring which gushes from the nearby hills, through the lush green golf course, down onto the Ligani Plains. Today, Constant Spring is another of the main centers of commerce in the corporate area. The Constant Spring Road takes the traveler on a straight path into Halfway Tree. From there, the Halfway Tree Road continues on a straight path to Crossroads. From Crossroads, Slipe Road takes the traveler into the capital, Kingston. Ligani was the original name of the parish of St. Andrew, but now only refers to a small commercial center midway between Halfway Tree and Papine. Ligani connects Halfway Tree by Hope Road and to Crossroad by Old Hope Road. Devon House, built in the 1880s by Jamaica's first black millionaire named George Tybal, is situated at the corner of Hope and Waterloo Roads, and now houses fine restaurants and a craft and shopping center. Its lush lawns provide a favorite recreational area for many. Hope Botanical Gardens. The site of these gardens was formerly part of the Hope Sugar Estate. Hope Gardens and its accompanying zoo is a continuing attraction for Jamaicans from all walks of life. King's House is located on Hope Road and is the residence of the Governor General of Jamaica. After the earthquake of 1907, King's House was rebuilt in 1909 using designs done by Sir Charles Nicholson. Jamaica House. Built after independence to be the official residence of the Prime Minister, now serves as the Prime Minister's office, while Vale Royal is the official residence. Vale Royal, Montrose Road, known formerly as Prospect Pen, was owned at various times by men of wealth and substance. Once the official residence of the Colonel Secretary, it is one of the few remaining houses in Kingston which has a lookout tower on the roof. Positioned on the northwest end of Jamaica, St. James is a suburban parish bounded by Trelawny to the east, St. Elizabeth to the south, and Hanover and Westmoreland to the west. Stretching from St. Elizabeth, the Nassau Mountains extend diagonally across St. James, ending in hills at a point south of Montego Bay. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you never miss an update. St. James was one of the second group of parishes formed in Jamaica and is said to have been named by Sir Thomas Modiford in about 1655 for Duke of York, who later became James II and was the reigning monarch at the time. It was however much larger at the time, as it included what are now the separate parishes of Trelawny and Hanover. Remains of Jamaica's original inhabitants, the Taino, have been located along the coastal area of St. James. These early natives are now affectionately referred to as the Fairfield people, in honor of a site near to Montego Bay where characteristic examples of their pottery have been found. One of the main roadways used by the early settlers from Ariston in Westmoreland to an area around Marthabury River also passes through this parish, and many legends have been handed down about supposed treasure left behind by Spaniards. After the English conquest of the island, St. James remained somewhat sparsely settled, as the interior was inhabited by the Maroons, of whom the settlers were terrified, and the parish was some distance from Spanish Town, the then seat of the government. Additionally, the parish capital of Montego Bay was witness to the final act of slave uprising in the island prior to the emancipation. Known as the Christmas Rebellion of 1831-32, it began at Kensington Estate and engulfed the entire western section of Jamaica, led by Baptist preacher and leader Samuel Sharp. This rebellion provoked two detailed parliamentary inquiries, which arguably contributed to the 1833 abolition of slavery across the British Empire. Montego Bay, Jamaica's official second city. Its name has varying stories surrounding its origin. Christopher Columbus named the bay there El Cabo de Buen Tempo, or Fairweather Gulf, and it is said that the entire area was named for Montego de Salamanca, an early colonizer. A more popular idea, however, is that the name Montego was derived from the Spanish word manteca, meaning lard or butter. An early map of Jamaica has the Montego Bay area listed as Bahia de Manteca, or Lard Bay. This region was densely populated with wild hogs, which the Spanish are said to have slaughtered in large numbers in order to collect lard for export to Cartagena. The Right Excellent Samuel Sharp, national hero. Sam Daddy Sharp was a revolutionary labor leader in the slave liberation struggles staged in the parish of St. James during the 1830s. He was a brilliant orator and a respected Baptist deacon who died in defense of basic human rights. The Honorable Jimmy Cliff is a reggae musician, a singer and actor, born in Somerton District, St. James. He is the only living musician to hold the Order of Merit, the highest honor that can be granted by the Jamaican government for achievements in the arts. Sir Howard Felix Cook, born on October 15, 1915 in the free village of Goodwill, St. James, was the third native governor-general since Jamaica gained independence in 1962. The parish of St. Catherine is located on the south coast between the parishes of St. Andrew to the east, Clarendon to the west, and St. Anne and St. Mary to the north. Except for the Elshire Hills near the coast, the south of the parish is virtually flat. The central and northern sections are very mountainous, however, with the northern border on Mount Diablo, which crosses over to St. Anne, the highest point being 686 meters. That's 2,700 feet. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. St. Catherine was created in 1867 when 4 smaller parishes were joined together and is named for Catherine, Queen of Charles II. The parish has long been a site of human settlement. The pre-Columbian Taino lived there, followed by the Spanish, who made their capital San Diego de la Vega, present-day Spanish Town. Today, St. Catherine is the second most populous and the most rapidly growing parish, with large manufacturing and agriculture industries. The office of the Registrar General is still located in Spanish Town, as is the historic Emancipation Square. The capital town, Spanish Town, once the capital city of Jamaica, in the parish of St. Catherine, as the country's archives, as a site of historical importance. Its history was shaped by its experiences with 2 significant colonial periods. These periods are the Spanish from 1534 to 1655 and the English from 1655 to 1782. The Mandela Highway, a 4-lane roadway, connects Spanish Town with the country's capital, Kingston. Portmore is connected to Kingston by a section of Highway 2000, a 23-kilometer tolled motorway which connects Kingston and Ocho Rios to Montego Bay, sections of Hanover, Westmoreland, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth. Portmore became a municipality by an Act of Parliament on June 19, 2003, before which the area was administered by the St. Catherine Parish Council. Municipal status allows for the mayor to be directly elected by the people. Spanish Town connects with Bogwalk by way of the picturesque Bogwalk Gorge. North of Bogwalk, the towns of Linstead and Ewarton and the towering Mount Diablo can be found. East of Spanish Town is the town of Old Harbour. The Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, Jamaica's first female Prime Minister, was born on December 12, 1945 in the rural community of Woodhall, St. Catherine. Former Prime Minister Orette Bruce Golding, although born in Clarendon, has been mostly associated with the parish of St. Catherine, as he spent his earlier years in Ginger Ridge and St. Faith's district in the parish. Malika Capo Reynolds, Jamaican intuitive master, was born on February 10, 1911, in Bindloss, St. Catherine. A highly calibrated self-taught artist, Capo began his prolific career in art by scraping on a stone with home-made tools. Leonard Percival Howell, also known as Gong, is most associated with St. Catherine, although he was born in Clarendon. He was a mystic and has been credited with founding the Rastafarian movement in Jamaica during the 1930s. He and his followers, known as Owlites, lived in Pinnacle, Sligoville, and later Simon, St. Catherine. Asafa Powell, Jamaican sprinter, was born on November 23, 1982, in Spanish town St. Catherine. He has run the 100 meter in under 10 seconds, more times than any other athlete in the world. Clarendon is located at the southern side of Jamaica, roughly halfway between the eastern and western ends of the island. It is bordered on the north by St. Ann, on the west by Manchester, on the east by St. Catherine, and on the south by the Caribbean Sea. Clarendon is predominantly a wide plain, lying between the Brazilito Mountains in the east and the Carpenter Mountain on the west. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. Clarendon was named in honor of the Lord Chancellor Sir Edward Hyde, Earl of Clarendon. One of Jamaica's youngest parishes, Clarendon was formed from a combination of three parishes: St. Dorothy's, Vere, and the older parish of Clarendon. Before the merger, its capital was Chapelton. Prior to the arrival of the Spaniards and the English, the Taínos, Jamaica's indigenous people, lived on Portland Ridge, now called Portland Point. That's the part of the parish that juts out into the sea. Taíno villages could also be found on the banks of the Ryamina River, the island's longest river, with the other villages on the banks of the Milk River. Clarendon is also home to the Caribbean's largest agricultural show. For over 50 years, Dembe, an official independence activity, has been held every August for 3 days to celebrate Jamaica's wealth of domestic and agricultural product. The capital of Clarendon, Maypen, was once part of a property owned by Reverend William May. It is said to have begun as merely 2 inns on the bank of the Ryamina River. The town grew rapidly, and in 1938, it was made the capital of the parish. It is now a large town that boasts many churches, factories, a courthouse, modern libraries, and numerous stores. A trip into North Clarendon necessarily includes a visit to Chapelton. This mountain town was once called Chapel Town because of St. Peter's Church, originally built there as a chapel for the parish church in the plains. Over time, the name was shortened to Chapelton. Records here date from 1666. In front of the church is the Civic Park. At the entrance, a bust of Maroon leader Kojo keeps watch. Behind him, a clock tower that chimes the hour and half hour bears the names of citizens who died in World War I. Across from this is the police station and farmers market. Near the center of the town, on its own hill, is the Clarendon College. The Honorable Daisy McFarlane Coke, born in Spalding's Clarendon, was an actuary who was the distinction of being the first black woman to qualify as Fellow of the Institute of Actuaries in 1970. She became the first president of the Caribbean Actuarial Association. The Honorable Claude Mackay, born in Sunnyvale, Clarendon, was a Jamaican-American writer and poet who was a seminal figure in the Harlem Renaissance. Linton Kwesi Johnson, UK-based dub poet, was born in Chapelton, Clarendon, before migrating to London in 1963. Dr. the Honorable Olive Lewin, Jamaican author, social anthropologist, musicologist, and teacher, best known for her recorded anthologies of older Jamaican folk songs, was born in Vere, Clarendon. Manchester is located in south-central Jamaica. To its east is the parish of Clarendon, while St. Elizabeth lies to its west, and Trelawny to its north. It rivals its neighbor, Trelawny, for the title of Jamaica's most mountainous parish. The 3 main ranges running throughout the parish are the Carpenter Mountains, the Mayday Mountains, and the Don Figueroa Mountains. Of the three ranges, the Carpenter Mountains is the highest, reaching as far as 2,770 feet above sea level. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. On November 29, 1814, at the beginning of the 19th century, coffee farmers in the Hill districts of Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, and the then parish of Vere petitioned to have a separate parish established. They asked for a new parish with a capital which they would meet their religious, civic, judicial, and administrative needs. The main reason for this action was the vast distance between the Hill districts and the commercial and administrative centers of all three parishes. On December 13, 1814, the new parish was formed and named after the Duke of Manchester, who was then serving as the governor of Jamaica. The capital was named Mandeville, after his son and heir. In the days prior to the abolition of slavery, Manchester's population was never as large as that of surrounding parishes, because the hilly terrain was not suited for the cultivation of sugar, which was then the island's most lucrative crop. However, after the emancipation, many of the newly freed slaves moved into the area to grow coffee and other crops on hillside farms. In the old colonial regime, Manchester had the prestigious distinction of being the most English of Jamaica's parishes, and it was known as the playground for the landed European gentry. In 1942, it was discovered that Manchester was the site of one of the largest deposits of bauxite in the country. Bauxite is a red ore which is processed to produce alumina and eventually aluminum. This discovery led to the growth and development of Manchester's bauxite and alumina industries, which facilitated the speedy development of the parish and the Mandeville in particular. Today, the economy of Manchester is deeply rooted in both bauxite and agriculture. Mandeville, the parish capital, sits atop a range of mountains which reach as far as 2,000 feet above sea level, providing spectacular views of the surrounding areas. The high altitudes are responsible for its cool climate. For this reason, Mandeville has been and continues to be a popular place of settlement for British expatriates. The town has been often described with fondness as being a typical English village. Once referred to as a small rural capital, Mandeville is now one of the largest and most affluent urban areas in Jamaica. Christiana was previously referred to as Barracks because it was a favored spot among British soldiers who went there seeking refuge from the heat of the lowlands. Christiana is the second largest town in Manchester and is probably most famous for its two main agricultural products, bananas and Irish potatoes. Although Mandeville is the business center of Manchester, Christiana holds its own as a site for commercial and social activity. Portmore is located on the eastern border of Manchester, close to the parish of Clarendon. Portmore is another thriving business center. The town's largest industry is agriculture, with coconuts, coffee, citrus and other fruits being the main crops. Portmore is always also the gateway to Manchester from Kingston. Home to some of the best pasture lands in the parish, Mile Gully is a prime location for cattle farming. Situated in northwestern Manchester, the rural community is the birthplace of the Jamaica Black and the Jamaica Red cattle. It is also the location of the country's largest livestock breeding research station. The Right Excellent Norman Washington Manley, National Hero. Mr. Manley, Jamaica's first premier, was born in Roxborough, Manchester in 1893. An outstanding athlete, scholar, and lawyer, Mr. Manley rose to national prominence during the labor disputes of 1938. That year, he founded the People's National Party and led the fight for universal adult suffrage. The Honorable Byron Lee. Born in Christiana, Manchester, on June 27, 1935, was a Jamaican musician, record producer, and entrepreneur, best known for his work as leader of Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. Dr. Arthur Wint, known as the Gentle Giant. He was born in Plowden, Manchester. He was the first Jamaican to ever win an Olympic gold medal, winning the 400 meters at the 1948 Summer Olympics in London. The parish of St. Mary is bordered by Portland in the east, St. Anne in the west, and parts of St. Catherine and St. Andrew in the south. It is mostly mountainous, rising up to almost 4,000 feet at the highest point, with just under 13% of its area having slopes below 10 degrees. There are three main rivers in St. Mary: the Hanover River, Wogwater, and White Rivers. These rivers are often slow and at times create swamps in the surrounding areas. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. St. Mary is well known for being one of the first sections of the island to be occupied by the Spaniards. In 1655, after the English captured Jamaica from the Spanish, the area around the town of Puerto Santa Maria became known as St. Mary. Port Maria, the current capital of the parish, was the second town built by the Spaniards on the island. Today, this parish includes the former parish of Metcalfe and part of the former parish of St. George. Numerous national monuments still stand in the parish, such as the town of Hanover, which holds historical significance for being the site of the last battle between the invading English and the defending Spaniards, who eventually had to flee to Cuba. In 1760, the most serious rebellion in Jamaica's history broke out around Port Maria, eventually spreading to almost the entire island. The leader of this rebellion was a Coromantee slave called a Taki, who belonged to the Frontier Estate. Fort Aldane, now Gray's Charity, was seized and ammunition taken. The rebels then moved inland. Many whites were killed. After emancipation, 3 villages were formed in St. Mary, but the parish still basically remained one with big estates. At the beginning of the 19th century, there were 63 sugar factories in the parish, but by the end of the century, only 3 existed. With the decline of sugar, banana cultivation took its place. In the late 1930s, St. Mary played a prominent role in the creation of Jamaica Producers Association, which was set up to prevent the continuation of monopoly on bananas held by the United Fruit Company and other purchasing organizations. Under the umbrella of the association, the Jamaica banana growers banded together to ship and market their own produce. Port Maria, the capital of the parish, is home to several buildings which survived from Port Maria's golden days of being a busy port, such as the St. Mary Parish Church and the old courthouse. Rockabessa is located west of Port Maria, on the main road leading to the neighboring parish of St. Anne. The name Rockabessa is thought to have been derived from the Spanish Oro de Cabeza, meaning golden head. Rockabessa is a farming town. Anato Bay is a seacoast town on the western side of the mouth of the Wogwater River, one of St. Mary's many rivers. In its heyday, Anato Bay boasted a rich sugar estate, Gray's Inn, but this sugar estate no longer functions since banana has replaced sugar as the main crop. The rusting smokestacks that once billowed forth life on this estate now stand idle. Ian Fleming was an English author and journalist, best known as the creator of the world-famous James Bond series of spy novels. These novels were written at his residence, GoldenEye, in Boscobel, St. Mary. The Ian Fleming International Airport, also in the parish, is named in his honor. Dr. Erna Bradbury, sociologist and social activist, born in Woodside, St. Mary, on April 20, 1940. She is also a world-famous novelist and the 1999 recipient of the Jamaican Musgrave Gold Award for Literature and Orature. Oliver Samuels, O.D., known as Jamaica's King of Comedy, is a comedian and actor, born in Harmony Hall, St. Mary. He is best known for his television series called Oliver at Large. Lisa Anna is a Jamaican politician and former beauty pageant title holder who grew up in the town of Retreat, St. Mary. Trelawny is bordered by the parishes of St. Anne in the east, St. James in the west, and St. Elizabeth and Manchester in the south. Most of the parish is flat, with wide plains such as Queen of Spain's Valley and Windsor. The highest point in the parish is Mount Eyre, which is 3,000 feet above sea level. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel and click the notification icon so you always receive my updates. Established in 1770, this parish was named after William Trelawny, the former governor of Jamaica. Trelawny has pockets of rich culture indigenous to the parish. The southern section of Trelawny is a part of the Cockpit country and is uninhabitable. It is therefore a natural reserve for flora and fauna. Most of Jamaica's 27 endemic bird species can be found there, along with yellow snakes and the giant swallowtail butterfly, the largest butterfly in the Western Hemisphere. Wakefield in North Trelawny is the home of the Tambu, Ger, and Mento bands. The Jamaica Cultural Development Commission has taught these traditions to children in several schools, namely Duncan's All Age and the Granville All Age. Drumming is also a part of the rich culture and was one of the teaching activities of the JCDC. With new attractions such as the Falmouth Cruise Ship Pier and the Multipurpose Complex, Trelawny is receiving well-deserved notice by tourism interests as it positions itself among the most attractive locations in the very competitive industry. Martha Brae was the parish's first capital. Its history dates back to the days of the Spanish occupation and was supposedly a site of an old Spanish settlement. The town got its name from the Martha Brae River, which today is used for rafting and is a source of water for the North Coast. Stewart's Town. This town is near the eastern border of the parish and is an important center for provisions brought from the interior. The town is named after James Stewart, a former custos of the parish. Stewart's Town is also home to Westwood High School, a famous Jamaican girls' school. Rio Bueno is one of the deepest harbors on the island. Once an important shipping haven, Rio Bueno is today a sleepy little village. Wait a Bit, a small interior town located between Low River and Settin and borders Greentown. Comprised of 5 districts, it is known for fertile farmlands and yam and strawberry production. The Honorable Usain St. Leo Bolt is undoubtedly the fastest athlete the world has ever seen. Born on 21st of August 1986 in Sherwood Content, a small town in Trelawny, his athletic prowess and world record-breaking performances in both the 100 and 200 meter sprints has raised the standard at athletics to a new level and left the world in awe. The Right Honorable Hugh Shearer, well-known politician, was born in Martabury, Trelawny, on May 18, 1923. He was a trade unionist and president of the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union. Mr. Shearer was appointed Prime Minister of Jamaica upon the death of Sir Donald Sangster in 1967. Veronica Campbell Brown, born May 15, 1982 in Clarkstown, Trelawny, is a Jamaican track and field sprint athlete and a 7-time Olympic medalist who specializes in the 100 and 200 meter races. St. Elizabeth lies to the southwest end of Jamaica, bordered on the north by St. James and Trelawny, on the south by the Caribbean Sea, on the east by the parish of Westmoreland, and on the west by Manchester. The northern and northeastern sections of the parish are mountainous, while an extensive plain occupies the central and southern districts. Running through this plain from north to south is the Santa Cruz range of mountains, which terminates at the southern extreme with a 1,600-foot precipice. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel by clicking that red subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss any of my updates. St. Elizabeth is one of the oldest parishes in Jamaica. Originally including much of the western section on the island, it was split to form parts of Westmoreland and Manchester in 1703 and 1814 respectively. St. Elizabeth was named in honor of Lady Elizabeth Modiford, wife of Sir Thomas Modiford, Governor of Jamaica between 1664 and 1671. Early settlement in St. Elizabeth began in the Pedro Plains, where the Taínos, the first inhabitants of Jamaica, occupied the coastline and led a simple life. Though the original Taínos died by the 17th century, persons of Taíno descent from Suriname came to settle in the parish in the 18th century, and their descendants are still here to this day. When the Spanish were defeated in 1655, the slaves who did not manage to flee to Cuba retreated to the impenetrable Cockpit country, which included parts of St. Elizabeth. These fleeing slaves became known as Maroons, and today, St. Elizabeth remains home to the Maroons of Accompong, one of the most famous Maroon towns in Jamaica. The St. Elizabethans also played an instrumental role in the Sam Sharp Rebellion of 1831. It is documented that about 20 to 40% of the slave population fought in that uprising. This little town of Black River, now the parish capital, can boast its own popularity in the 19th and early 20th centuries as a fishing spot, colorful balls and banquets, often held at Court House, and its annual circus that attracted visitors from far and wide. Black River, among the oldest towns on the island, is reportedly the first to have received electricity. The Leydens brothers were among the earliest settlers in the parish, and they are said to have imported Jamaica's first motor vehicle. Though the social scene has changed significantly, the parish has forged ahead in agricultural production, providing the bulk of Jamaica's vegetable and fruit provisions. The Black River supports an important shrimp and freshwater fishery, and best of all, St. Elizabeth's diverse geographical patterns make for a landscape as rich and varied as the heritage of its people. St. Elizabeth has several towns of importance. These are Santa Cruz, Malvern, Junction, and Balaclava. Other organized towns within the parish are Mogotty, Lacovia, Bull Savannah, Southfield, Newell, Newmarket, Silo, and Middle Quarters. The Cockpit Country is a large area in west central Jamaica that derives its name from the cockpit, crust limestone, which has the appearance of an overturned egg tray. This area measures approximately 450 kilometers squared, and though centered in the parish of Trelawny, has extensions into St. Elizabeth. The Cockpit Country vegetation is the largest and most intact example of wet limestone forest in Jamaica. Its flora exemplifies the outstanding endemism of West Indies, and most of Jamaica's 550 native ferns grow in this area. The Honorable Roger Clark was the Minister of Agriculture from 2012 up until his death in 2014. A former mayor of Black River in St. Elizabeth, Clark was Member of Parliament for North East St. Elizabeth between 1991 and 2007. The Honorable Barbara Gloudon, communication specialist, playwright and journalist, was born in Malvern, St. Elizabeth. The Right Honorable Donald Sangster, born on October 26, 1911 in the parish of St. Elizabeth, was a Jamaican solicitor, politician and the second Prime Minister of Jamaica. The Honorable Alfred M. W. Sangster, well-known educator and founding president of the University of Technology, formerly the College of Arts, Science and Technology, was born on July 24, 1929 in the parish of St. Elizabeth. Una Maud Marson, Jamaican feminist, activist and writer, was born on the 6th of February 1905 in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth. She was the first black female to work for the BBC. Westmoreland, located at the west end of the island, is adjoined on the north by the parish of Hanover and on the east by St. Elizabeth and St. James. The parish has a combination of white limestone, marl, sand, gravel and coral reefs. Lying on the Georges Plain, the parish is drained by the Carburetor River. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel by clicking that red subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss any of my updates. Colonists named this parish Westmoreland in 1703, after the English took over the island from Spanish rule in 1655. It is likely that it received its name as it was the most westerly point of the island. Savannah-la-Mar, the capital, was developed as a port from which sugar was exported and dates back to around 1730. The Spanish name Savannah-la-Mar means plain by the sea and refers to its environment. One of the first Spanish settlements was also built at present-day Bluefields in this parish. The parish boasts rain-fed, fertile soils and low relief well suited for sugarcane. The town of Frome, located about 5 miles away from Savannah-la-Mar, is one of the few remaining sugar factories in the country. In 1938, riots at the Frome Sugar Estate changed the course of Jamaica's history. In the wake of these riots, the legislature passed universal adult suffrage in 1944, as well as a new constitution, which was approved by the Crown. This act put Jamaica on the road to self-government and eventually independence. The fertility and lush vegetation of the parish is greatly maintained by the various rivers and streams that are important sources of water. The popular Great Morass, found in the parish, is a large swamp area which covers thousands of acres. Plant and animal material have collected on this land over the centuries and is thereafter mined as peat, a great source of energy. The wetlands, common to the parish of Westmoreland, serve as a natural sanctuary for Jamaica's wildlife. The parish capital, Savannah-la-Mar, is a sub-regional center where the administrative, commercial, marketing and retail sector dominates and acts as a strong influence to the growth of the town. Bluefields, a coastal town established by the Spanish on their arrival in 1655. Presently, it is a tourist attraction with white sandy public beaches. Grange Hill, located in western Westmoreland, the town of Grange Hill is a large farming town which consists of a cluster of small communities: Mint, Belly Isle, Top Lincoln, and Kings Valley. Negril, Located in the western Westmoreland constituency, Negril is a tourist resort area, having many chains of all-inclusive hotels and a 7-mile strip of white sand beach. Bethel Town. Established as a free village in the 19th century, the property was initially established as a sugar plantation. However, presently, citrus cultivation and cattle farming dominates. Seaford Town. This area is significant for the existence of a number of German descendants. It is said that the Germans settled in the town on 500 acres of partially cleared woodlands in the 18th century. The town was named after the British planter Lord Seaford. This is Parish Profile. Today we take a look at the parish of Hanover. Hanover rounds off the northwestern tip of the island. It lies to the west of St. James and to the north of Westmoreland. The capital, Lucy, is situated on a beautiful harbour 25 miles west of Montego Bay and midway between Montego Bay and Negril. The highest point is Birch Hill, which is 18,010 feet, or 550.2 meters, followed by Dolphin Head, which is 1,789 feet, or 545.8 meters. Numerous caves, coves, and bays mark the coastline of Hanover. Welcome back to Elite Jamaica, the place you come to learn about Jamaica and Jamaicans. If it's your first time joining me here, consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the red subscribe button, and remember to turn on notifications by clicking that bell icon so you never miss any of my updates. Jamaica's second smallest parish, Hanover, was established in 1725 and was named for the reigning monarch on the British throne, George I, who was from the House of Hanover in Germany. The capital town, Lucy, has been known by many names and stretches along the western side of a horseshoe-shaped bay, which is considered to be one of the island's safest ports. From the hills overlooking Lucy Harbour, one can observe an expansive panorama of the bay. Similarly, the view from the Dolphin Head Mountains provides an extensive vista of the other parishes in the western side of the island. Hanover sometimes does not get credit for its beauty and charm, and is often overshadowed by the nearby tourist destination of Montego Bay. Nevertheless, it shares the Negril Strip with its southern neighbour Westmoreland, and many of the rich and famous tiptoe into the parish at the Round Hill Hotel and the Trial Beach and Country Club, thinking that they are still in Montego Bay. There are three main towns. Number 1, Green Island. Green Island is a small town located on the west coast between Negril and Lucy, close to Orange Bay. It was once a thriving market town in the days when sugar was king. Number 2, Sandy Bay. Sandy Bay is a seaside town found in the northern section of the parish. The famous Trial Estate is situated on the main road between Hopewell and Sandy Bay, Hanover. Number 3, Hopewell. Hopewell is a settlement and fishing village located 15 kilometers west of Montego Bay. Its main tourist attraction is Round Hill, Jamaica, a resort located on the beachfront in the eastern side of the settlement. Thank you for joining me again, guys. Hopewell is a very small parish and there was not a lot of information that I could attain. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to Elite Jamaicas yet, consider doing so. And remember, to do that, you click the red subscribe button. And also, remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon, so you will always know when I upload new videos. Thank you. I am Alex. Bless.